Hello and welcome to the video lecture. This week we'll review revision of the final draft and a reminder to hold a fourth team meeting if possible. We'll review the following during the lecture to include submission expectations for the final product of P3. If you have a fourth team meeting, there are some things to think about, like reviewing again each group member contribution and who did what part of the presentation. So once you've reminded yourselves of who did what, then you know who has to revise which parts. So for example, if River was responsible for the intro and the subsection 3, River should revise those parts. Or you could review that list of who was responsible for which section and then decide to reassign sections to new people for revisions. Say Alvin drafted the conclusion in subsection 1, but for the final, Lauren will be assigned to revise those parts so you can review it with fresh eyes. You can decide which revision approach is best for your team. Review other items on the screen that you could discuss with your group during the fourth team meeting, especially since you are revising consideration of word choice and tone. Thinking about word choice and tone is how and what you've said throughout the presentation. Is it appropriate for new members of the community? In your wording and visuals or audio or whatever, have you shown these new members appropriately, and I mean appropriate tone and word choice, have you shown them what this community is for? A transcript. So if your group did create a podcast or a video recording of the presentation, like a TikTok or YouTube, then you should have included a transcript as part of your submission. However, if you created a resource for new discourse community members that doesn't include audio narration, you did so because your discourse community didn't expect such a resource. And thus, submitting a transcript was not necessary for your group. But if you are including a transcript as part of your rough and final submission, you should feature with your final submission package text-based changes to your transcript in the same manner that you've submitted final drafts for this class. I want to see the messy changes to your transcript. Let's go back. If your presentation does not feature audio narration and doesn't have a transcript, don't worry about showing me your changes to the text or the visuals of the presentation itself. Merely enact these changes so that your resource presentation is the best that it can be for new members of the community. Now let's talk about the group due date. Set another group due date for revisions to be submitted. All members of the group should be aware of the group due date because you should email or tell them days before, and then another day or hours before the group due date, email out one more reminder. This will ensure that your group is successful. And again, you won't have to be chasing each other down or being mean to each other. You're just trying to hold people accountable, and they may or may not hold themselves accountable. And then you should update the group checklist included with your final P3 resource accordingly. This lets me know who contributed and who did not, and submitting an incomplete presentation or not submitting at all will impact everyone's grade on the team. And then remember that late submissions will not be graded. And then to ensure that your final is graded, include the group checklist, adhere to the group due date, check that the link works and doesn't require permissions, and then upload the presentation link or file and the transcript if it applies to your group on time. So your participation for Project 3 is being measured by the group checklists, on-time submissions, and other factors. It's also being measured in an additional 100-point assignment titled Project 3 Team Participation. If you've been ghosting your group, not submitting project elements on time, or other negative or could be positive items that have impacted your team, I'll assess all of these things cumulatively in the participation grade. You don't have to submit anything for this 100-point assignment. You merely have to substantively interact with your team and submit your parts to standard and on time. Assignments for week 15, let's review those together. So the first thing I'm going to mention, it's not really an assignment, it's reviewing the CFF or the collective feedback file. I suggest each group member assess this separately and compare it as a checklist against your presentation. This is only one tool to help you revise self-reflection on your discourse community, peer review, and reviewing your draft against the assignment guidelines. It's going to further strengthen your final. Secondly, each group member must submit the link or the file for their presentation to the peer review forum on time. As with previous peer reviews, submit your post on time to ensure you're paired with two peers. Please add your group number with your submission, and that way, if you're accidentally paired with somebody from your group, I can reassign. However, in the event that you're paired with one or maybe even two peers from your same group and I don't notice or you don't reach out to let me know this, be proactive. Pick two different peers from two different group numbers in the forum, respond to those people on time, and you'll get a grade for the assignment. Not completing your feedback due to being paired with the wrong peers means you'll get partial credit, especially because you can easily find two new peers in the forum yourself. Basically, I don't care who you give feedback to as long as they are both from different groups and you reply on time. That will get you your peer review grade. The password is on the screen, and if you include this password with an assignment that asks for it in this module, you could earn extra credit points. Now we continue to the group submission of the P3 final draft presentation. Review the assignment guidelines with your team during the fourth group meeting. And this includes things like making sure captions are in place for figures relevant to the presentation, mentioning the relevance of these figures in the text or audio narration. Additionally, stats or claims should be cited in some way throughout the presentation, ensuring all passages are proofread and that the presentation flows and follows an organizational pattern will help create a great final. Make sure each component seems like it melds together rather than you created a weird hodgepodge of submissions from different people that doesn't seem related to each other or related to the members of your discourse community. You don't want that to seem obvious. You want it to seem like one seamless resource. Lastly, submit the individual assignment titled Self and Team Evaluations. This is a quiz and it's not content-based, but rather it's based on how you think you did as a group member and how your other group members did during the project. Please refrain from name calling. Please just divulge your assessment of each team member based on their contributions to the project. After finishing all these tasks, review the modules for any leftover extra credit opportunities, remembering to submit them on time. They each have different due dates. Overall, know that I've enjoyed learning about discourse communities with you all. I've learned things about communities I've never heard of. And that's the cool thing about being a teacher. I'm constantly learning just like you. Another cool part is knowing that I'm doing my small part to help students in a hopefully impactful way. And I will leave you with the last piece of advice I share with my own kids when they inevitably ask, "What's life all about?" I believe life is about being kind and working hard. With these two elements, success is likely to follow. I wish that for you. I wish success for you in all of your endeavors. Have a great summer and don't hesitate to reach out with questions about assignment components.